Hello, this is Reg Reed. We are going to do a Bible review on a study Bible that is very well regarded and considered by many to be one of the best study Bibles available today from an academic or theological perspective. I did do a review on the Life Application Study Bible, which is also very well regarded, but it's more of a devotional study Bible, and this is more of a theological study Bible. So this is a big, thick one. And of course, being the ESV study Bible, it is only available in the ESV, which for me is not a big deal because I love the ESV. It's probably one of my favorites. I think I like the NASB a little more, but the ESV is definitely top three. So this is put out by Crossway, which I believe owns the copyright to the English Standard Version, and this I bought from Amazon. So this is hardcover. I believe you can get it in imitation leather. This is a thumb-indexed version, which I'm not sure if they all are, but this one is. So let's have a look at this and see what some of the features are. Of course, I bought this for my birthday, and I mentioned this before in another review, but when you buy a Bible for yourself, how do you fill out that buy section? I always just leave it blank. So anyway, this is all on glossy paper. I'm not a huge fan of glossy paper, especially on a presentation page when you're using a pen, because glossy paper and pens tend to not get along. There tends to be smudging and smearing. In this case, it didn't happen, but depending on the type of pen you use. So anyway, the ESV Study Bible, and this paper is very thin, like thinner than, seems to be thinner than some other study Bibles that I have. So we've got a table of contents here. Now, one thing I want to say about the ESV is it is a newer translation. I believe it came out about 2001. So it's only about 25 years old. So it is on the newer side. It's not the newest. Of course, the Legacy Standard Bible is, I think, one of the newest, but I'm not as familiar with that one. So we've got an introduction, a user guide to the ESV Study Bible. You've got a list of contributors. It's always good that they do this to show you who's actually behind the study notes and the contents of a study Bible, just in case you want to look some of it up. So this gives you a preface, an introduction, and then we're into an overview of the Bible, a survey of the history of salvation. Now, depending on where you lean theologically, there are some people that are dispensational. I'm not one of them, at least not anymore. But some people do have that view of salvation. Anyway, the theology of the Old Testament. So this Bible is very big on articles. And then this gives you Old Testament timeline, so an overview. So it's giving you date of the Exodus, so when people lived, patriarchs to judges, united monarchy. Let's see if I can get this a little clearer here. Divided monarchy. And then you have the date of the Exodus. It's got an article on the date of the Exodus. Of course, when you're dealing with dates in ancient history, like far back creation, the Exodus, you can't really pinpoint a date. There are clues, and generally, there is a lot of agreement, but there's also disagreement on some of that stuff as well. So we have an introduction to Genesis. So this gives you the author, the date, and the title. So this goes on for several pages, actually. So the introductions to the books are quite extensive. Like this is several pages, and then you get into Genesis. Now look at how much commentary you have in this. Just tons and tons of commentary. So it is single column paragraph form which is the typical layout of the ESV. So you've got lots of notes. You will have some maps in here. So again, like, this study Bible is very comprehensive in its notes and in its material. We're just going to kind of flip through quickly here. You've got the bronze altar, a little illustration of it. So I really like it when they do inserts like that, just so you can visualize things a little better. You know, when you're reading, you're kind of imagining what it looks like based on the description, but you know what? You could be totally wrong. So it is nice that they show you an artist's interpretation of what it looks like. So again, lots of notes, lots of commentary, lots of introduction, lots of maps. I would compare this to the NIV Biblical Theology Study Bible. I think it's similar in size. Here you've got an illustration of Jerusalem. So again, it's good to help you visualize these things. There's Nehemiah. Nehemiah is an interesting study. If you ever wondered why we have pulpits made of wood and why we have raised platforms in churches, read Nehemiah. When he read the law, he had those things as kind of a biblical precedent for some of that stuff. Anyway, that's a little side note. So yeah, here's the introduction to Ecclesiastes. Again, just pages of stuff. Very in-depth. Just kind of maps and stuff all over the place. Daniel, that's a book that is very, very interesting, and there is a lot of interpretation, a lot of prophecy there. Of course, it kind of parallels Revelation and some of the prophecies. Let's look and see what we got between the Testaments. I am going to guess that, yep, there it is. Background to the New Testament and the time between the Testaments. So I figured it would have this. So it gives you information about what happened during those 400 years. You've got timelines, and I really like these timelines. They're classic looking, almost like a textbook. Like, you could probably use this Bible as a seminary textbook for theology. Just like a timetable here, intertestament events. Just really, really great information. And then we've got the Roman Empire and the Greco-Roman world at the time of the New Testament. So yeah, they really like to give you these articles and tell you, here's the Jewish groups, the time of the New Testament, and then you've got the New Testament. So really handy to read. Then you've got the theology of the New Testament. There's a bit of a structure. Now, the ESV is known to be kind of, I don't know if it's a fair thing to say, but has been accused of, let's say, of being biased towards Reformed theology. And I believe that's because a lot of the people that worked on the committee of the ESV were in fact Reformed. Now, I am not Reformed, and I've got no problem with the ESV. I don't think it may be hinted at here and there, but you know, I think it's very fair and very balanced. So if that's one of your concerns about using an ESV, it's not much of a concern. It's not a big problem. And maybe you are Reformed. If you're a Reformed brother or sister watching, that's fine. So look at this, harmony of the events of the Holy Week. So they really like these tables. and they're kind of scattered throughout here. There's another illustration here, Jerusalem in the time of Jesus. Look at that. And it's not just a map. It's actually like a bird's eye view. And then it's got everything labeled by number. So just a wonderful resource. Now here's more of a map. The Last Supper kind of shows you where it is or where it was. So here's another little table. What is that? The 3 major passion predictions in Mark. Oh, look at this. This is Herod's temple in the time of Jesus. Look at that. Like, just not only is it an illustration, but it is a very well done illustration. You know what this kind of reminds me of? Remember those old travel guides that Eyewitness Travel used to put out with different tourist attractions, and they would kind of have this cutaway view. Just amazing stuff. So these are what your typical pages look like. I wonder if there's an introduction to Paul's epistles before Romans. Yep. So we've got Acts, and then we've got reading the epistles. So a little introduction to Paul's letters. Kind of what the book is, who wrote it. Saying Hebrews unknown. I tend to lean towards it being Paul, but that's just my thinking. I'm always open to other opinions. And then there's your Romans. So they really like their introductions. You've got a timeline here. What is this? Introduction to Hebrews. Key themes. Outline. Timeline. Just really cool stuff. And if you are really serious about studying your Bible and you really want to dive deep into the text, this is probably a good study Bible for you. If you are a new convert or you're just learning, you're a seeker, I would recommend the Life Application, and I've done a review on that. But this is good for, it could be Bible college students, could be anybody who's serious about really digging into the scriptures. I think this is a great resource. So here we're coming to the end of Revelation. Let's see what we've got in the back. We've got articles and resources. We've got God's plan of salvation. Now, if this is coming from, now I haven't read all this, but if this is coming from a Reformed theology, it's probably going to come out here. But I don't know for sure. I'm hoping that it's more of a balanced approach that's what I like about the Life Application, is when it does give theology, it gives more than one view. So here we've got the biblical doctrine, true theology, knowing and loving God. Like, this could seriously be used as a textbook. I bet you if you had this study Bible and all the information contained in it, you'd probably know more or have more education just from this study Bible than the average pastor would have had 100 years ago. The reliability of Bible manuscripts. So this is interesting as well. Now, there was once a time when I was a King James only person. And so I probably wouldn't have even bought this Bible at that time, but thankfully I've come to my senses. And I've come to love other versions of the Bible, the ESV being one of them. Archaeology in the Bible. So this just likely talks about how archaeological finds, things found in archaeology, support the Bible. The original name, or the original languages of the Bible, Hebrew and Aramaic. Yep, there was some Aramaic in the latter part of the Old Testament. Not much, but a little bit. The Septuagint. How the New Testament quotes and interprets the Old Testament. Jesus, Paul, they all quoted the Old Testament. Of course, Paul being a former Pharisee, he probably knew the Old Testament inside and out. The Bible in Christianity, Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy. Oh, so this is talking about, I guess, different types of denominations or different types of theology. Liberal Protestantism. That'd probably be like your United Church, your United Methodist. Evangelical Protestant and Global Christianity, the Bible and world religions. So the Bible and contemporary Judaism, the Bible and other world religions, Hinduism. This would be really good for apologetical study. If you're going to talk to people of other faiths and try to win them for the Lord, you kind of need to know a little bit about those faiths. Of course, you need to know about your own, too, if you're going to share it. The Bible and religious cults. We've got the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, Mormonism. You know, all of this is amazing. Jehovah's Witnesses, Christian Science, New Age movement. I wonder if King James onlyism is in here. Maybe. We'll see. Nope. I'm surprised. Another cult that's really big these days is Oneness Pentecostalism. I think that could be included too. The history of salvation in the Old Testament, preparing the way for Christ. Look at that. Just a bunch of scripture just listed about salvation. You know, they were saved. Dispensationalists believed that salvation was by works in the Old Testament. But no, Abraham had faith. Maps. Now your concordance and your abbreviations. So this is quite a thick concordance, a little bit bigger than normal study Bibles, I think. I'm not a big concordance user. A daily Bible reading plan. Now, I mentioned this when I did the review of the Life application. I'm not a fan of Bible reading plans because I think it hinders your motivation for reading the Bible. I think you're reading the Bible because you love the Lord, you want to learn about Him, you want to strengthen your faith and you want to grow. You don't want to read the Bible because it's a duty, because it's something you have to do just to check a box. So I'm not a fan of daily Bible reading plans. If you are and you do it that way, then go for it. I've got nothing against it. Not for me. Weights and measures. So every study Bible that we've looked at has a table of weights and measures. Now let's look at the maps. Now these maps are printed on glossy, thick glossy paper, which is my least favorite. I like the matte finish for maps, but that's just my opinion. You know what? To be honest with you, I'm a little disappointed in these maps. They seem kind of cartoonish. I don't like a lot of color. You know what Bible has the best maps? Is the ESV Schuyler Canterbury. I think they have the best maps. So Jerusalem. The dogs are barking, so I gotta go. But there is the ESV Study Bible. Hope this has helped you, and until next time, God bless.